The metallic taste filled my mouth as frosting mixed with crimson drops. My sister Marlena stood above me, her laughter echoing through our family dining room, while I lay sprawled on the hardwood floor. What should have been my 25th birthday celebration had become something far more sinister. As I wiped blood from my split lip, I caught the satisfied smirk on my mother's face. That moment I realized this wasn't just sibling rivalry. This was orchestrated cruelty that would change everything forever. Hey everyone! Before we dive into this shocking family betrayal story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you're ready for some serious family drama with twists that'll blow your mind, smash that like button and hit subscribe because this birthday nightmare is just the beginning of a revenge story that'll leave you speechless. 3 hours earlier, I had walked into my childhood home with genuine excitement. After working double shifts at the hospital for months, I finally had time off to celebrate with family. The dining room was decorated with balloons and streamers, purple my favorite color since childhood. The homemade chocolate cake sat perfectly centered on the antique oak table that had hosted every family milestone. Seraphina, happy birthday, sweetheart. My mother, Margaret, pulled me into what felt like a genuine embrace. Her Chanel perfume, the same one she had worn for decades, brought back memories of better times. My father, Robert, emerged from his study with his usual reserved smile, offering a brief hug before retreating to his leather armchair. Marlena burst through the front door 30 minutes late, her designer heels clicking against the marble foyer. At 27, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. Her perfectly styled blonde hair and flawless makeup made her look like she had stepped out of a magazine shoot rather than rushing to a family dinner. Sorry I'm late, traffic was absolutely insane. She kissed my cheek, leaving a faint lipstick mark. You look nice, Sarah. Is that from Target? I glanced down at my simple blue dress, suddenly self-conscious. Working in healthcare meant practical clothing choices, not designer pieces. Actually, it's from that boutique downtown you recommended. Oh. Her smile faltered for just a moment before returning full force. Well, it's very you. Dinner proceeded with the usual family dynamics. Dad discussed his latest business ventures while Mom fussed over table settings. Marlena dominated conversations about her social media influencer career, showing off sponsored products and discussing brand partnerships. I shared updates about my work as a trauma nurse, though the responses felt politely disinterested. Sarah saves lives every day. I mentioned when Marlena complained about having to wake up before noon for a photo shoot. That's wonderful, dear, Mom said absently, refilling Marlena's wine glass while leaving mine empty. Marlena, tell us more about that collaboration with the skincare company. The pattern was familiar, but still stung. Marlena had always been the golden child prom queen sorority president, everything that sparkled. I was the responsible one, the one who cleaned up messes and asked for nothing in return. When cake time arrived, I felt genuinely happy. Despite everything, these people were my family. I made a wish, something about finding my place in the world, and began to blow out the candles. Wait, Marlena jumped up. Let me get a better video for Instagram. This lighting is perfect. She positioned her phone, adjusting angles while asking me to pose. Okay, now lean over the cake more. Perfect. This is going to get amazing engagement. I should have noticed the gleam in her eyes, the way she gripped the cake plate's edge. Instead, I trusted her completely. Happy birthday to my amazing sister, she announced loudly. Then everything changed. Her hands shot forward, driving the entire cake directly into my face with shocking force. The impact sent me stumbling backward, my heel catching on the area rug. I fell hard, my head striking the corner of the sideboard. Pain exploded across my skull as I crashed to the floor. The laughter started immediately. Not just Marlena's high-pitched giggles, but Mom's approving chuckle, and even Dad's rare snort of amusement. I lay there, chocolate frosting coating my hair and dress, blood trickling from where my lip had split against my teeth. Oh my God, this is hilarious! Marlena held up her phone, still recording. The internet is going to love this. I struggled to sit up, my head spinning from the impact. Marlena, what the hell? Come on, it's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. She was already uploading the video, her fingers flying across the screen. This is going to go viral. My followers love authentic family moments. Mom handed her a napkin, completely ignoring me, as I tried to clean frosting from my eyes. You girls and your social media. It's all so modern. The casual cruelty of it hit me harder than the physical pain. This wasn't spontaneous. Marlena had planned this humiliation. She had positioned herself, perfectly angled her phone for maximum impact, and my parents were treating it like dinner entertainment. I'm bleeding, I said, touching the warm wetness on my lip. It's barely a scratch, Dad said without looking up from his brandy. You always were dramatic, Seraphina. I pulled myself up using the sideboard, my hands shaking with more than just shock. In the antique mirror above, I saw myself, hair matted with frosting, dress stained, a cut on my lip, and eyes filled with hurt and humiliation. But I also saw something else in that reflection. Behind me, Marlena was showing Mom the video, both of them laughing at my expense. Dad had returned to reading his financial magazine as if nothing had happened. None of them offered to help clean up the mess or check if I was seriously injured. Sarah, don't look so miserable, Marlena called out. It's your birthday, live a little. That's when the pieces started falling into place. This wasn't the first time I had been the target of their entertainment. The graduation party where Marlena accidentally spilled red wine on my white dress. The Christmas when my carefully chosen gifts were forgotten while hers were celebrated. The countless times my accomplishments were minimized while her mediocre achievements were praised. I had always attributed it to sibling rivalry or parental favoritism. But standing there covered in my own birthday cake while they celebrated my humiliation, I realized this was something far more calculated. I need to clean up, I said quietly. Use the kitchen sink, Mom suggested helpfully. We don't want you dripping on the good towels upstairs. As I walked toward the kitchen, I heard Marlena's excited voice. This already has 50 likes. People are commenting that they want to see more family content. I caught my reflection again in the kitchen window, a grown woman, a healthcare professional who saved lives daily, being treated like a joke by her own family. The humiliation burned, but underneath it, something else was growing. For the first time in my life, I was truly seeing my family clearly. And what I saw made my blood run colder than the frosting in my hair. The next morning, I sat in my apartment bathroom, gently cleaning the cut on my lip that had required 3 small butterfly bandages. The swelling had gone down, but the memory burned brighter than ever. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications. Marlena had tagged me in the birthday cake video that now had over 10,000 views. The comments section was brutal. Strangers calling me clumsy, ugly, dramatic. Worse were the ones praising Marlena for her hilarious prank and asking for more family content. She had monetized my humiliation, turning my pain into her profit. But something had shifted during that sleepless night. The fog of family loyalty that had clouded my judgment for 25 years had finally lifted. I started seeing patterns I had previously excused or ignored. I pulled out my laptop and began documenting everything I could remember. The time Marlena convinced me to loan her $5,000 for emergency dental work money I never saw again. How she had sabotaged my college application interviews by giving me wrong addresses, making me arrive hours late to 3 different schools. The way she would invite me to parties just to abandon me there without transportation home. Each memory painted a clearer picture of calculated cruelty disguised as sibling teasing. My phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, a family portrait from last Christmas where everyone smiled except me, who looked tired and slightly out of place. Seraphina, honey, I hope you're not still upset about last night. Her tone carried that special blend of condescension and false concern that I now recognized. Marlena feels terrible about the whole thing. She does? Well, she's concerned about your reaction. You know how sensitive you can be. There it was, the gaslighting that made me question my own perceptions. Mom, she humiliated me on my birthday and posted it online for thousands of people to mock. Oh, sweetheart, it wasn't that serious. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Besides, Marlena says the video is doing wonderfully. Some brand wants to sponsor her next family content. Isn't that exciting? My stomach turned. She's profiting from humiliating me. Don't be so negative. This could be good for all of us. She mentioned including more family members in future videos. You could finally have some exposure for once. The casual cruelty of that statement, finally have some exposure, as if my entire existence had been meaningless until Marlena decided to exploit it for content. I need to go, Mom. Now don't sulk, Seraphina. We're having Sunday dinner as usual this week. Marlena has some exciting news to share. After hanging up, I sat in silence processing the conversation. They expected me to show up for Sunday dinner as if nothing had happened. As if being assaulted and humiliated was just another family tradition I should gracefully accept. That afternoon, I did something I had never done before. I started researching my family's business dealings. Dad owned several commercial properties and investment firms. Mom served on various charity boards. Marlena's influencer career was supposedly self-made, built on lifestyle content and brand partnerships. What I discovered made my hands shake. The emergency dental work loan I had given Marlena. She had posted photos from Cabo that same week, staying at a resort that cost more per night than most people made in a month. The timing was too perfect to be coincidental. Digging deeper into public records, I found something even more disturbing. The scholarship I had lost senior year of high school, the one that would have covered my entire college tuition, had been awarded to someone else after my application was mysteriously withdrawn. According to the records, a family member had called the scholarship committee, claiming I was no longer interested. My college fund, which had supposedly been depleted by unexpected medical expenses, had been transferred to an account in Marlena's name just weeks before she bought her first luxury car. The medical expenses were real mom's cancer treatment 3 years ago, but insurance had covered 90% of costs. The remaining bills were less than $8,000, nowhere near the $40,000 that had supposedly emptied my college fund. I spent hours cross-referencing dates, bank transfers, and social media posts. A picture emerged of systematic financial abuse spanning nearly a decade. Every major opportunity in my life had been sabotaged, every resource redirected to fund Marlena's lifestyle. The most sickening discovery came last. My inheritance from Grandma Rose, the woman who had actually loved me unconditionally, had been held in trust by my parents until I turned 25. According to Grandma's will, I should have received $50,000 and her antique jewelry collection on my birthday. My 25th birthday had passed yesterday. No mention of any inheritance. I called the law office that had handled Grandma's estate. After being transferred 3 times and providing extensive identification, I finally spoke with the executor. Miss Morrison, I'm so sorry for the confusion. Your inheritance was claimed 6 months ago by your legal guardian. According to our records, your sister Marlena Morrison presented documentation showing you were incapacitated and unable to manage your affairs. She had power of attorney papers signed by you. My vision blurred. I never signed any power of attorney papers. The signature was notarized. We have copies if you'd like to review them. Send everything to my email immediately. 20 minutes later, I stared at forged documents bearing a signature that looked remarkably like mine, but contained subtle differences I could detect. Marlena had stolen my inheritance using fraudulent papers, and my parents had either helped or willingly looked the other way. $50,000 plus jewelry worth at least $20,000 more. Money that could have paid off my student loans, given me a down payment for a house, provided the financial security I had worked myself to exhaustion trying to achieve. Instead, it had funded Marlena's lifestyle while I worked double shifts and lived paycheck to paycheck. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed by the scope of the betrayal. This wasn't just sibling rivalry or parental favoritism. This was organized theft fraud and emotional abuse spanning years. But now I knew. And knowledge I was about to learn could be the most powerful weapon of all. I opened a new document on my laptop and began typing. Evidence of financial fraud and elder abuse. Morrison family investigation. For the first time in years, I felt truly purposeful. They had underestimated me for the last time. Monday morning brought clarity along with my coffee. I called in sick to work, something I had never done unless genuinely ill, and dedicated the entire day to building my case. If my family wanted to play games, I would learn the rules and win. My first stop was the bank where my college fund had been held. Armed with my identification and a list of specific dates, I requested detailed transaction histories. The manager, a middle-aged woman named Patricia, seemed genuinely disturbed by what the records revealed. These transfers were all authorized by joint account holders, she explained, pulling up screen after screen of data. Your parents had full access to move funds between accounts, even without my knowledge or consent. Unfortunately, yes. When you were a minor, they had complete control. Even after you turned 18, if your name remained on joint accounts with them. She trailed off, seeing my expression. I'm very sorry, Miss Morrison. This appears to be a significant breach of trust, though technically legal given the account structures. I photographed everything, building a timeline that showed exactly how my money had been systematically drained. The pattern was unmistakable. Every major expense in Marlena's life corresponded with withdrawals from my accounts. Next, I visited the notary office where my supposed power of attorney papers had been signed. The notary, an elderly man named Frank, remembered the transaction clearly. Your sister seemed very concerned about you, he said, pulling out his records. She explained that you had been in a severe car accident and were unable to handle your affairs while recovering. I was never in a car accident. His face fell. She had medical documents, hospital letterheads. Everything looked legitimate. He showed me copies of forged medical records claiming I had suffered traumatic brain injury and was incapacitated. This is fraud, I said quietly. I'm required to report suspected fraud to authorities, Frank said gravely. Would you like me to file a report? Not yet. I need to gather more evidence first. That evening, I called my cousin Derek, Grandma Rose's grandson, from her other daughter. Derek was a forensic accountant who had always been the black sheep of the extended family for asking uncomfortable questions about money. Sarah, I was wondering when you'd finally call me about this mess. You knew? I've suspected something was wrong for years. When Marlena showed up at Grandma's funeral wearing jewelry that looked suspiciously like the antique pieces Rose always promised you, I started paying attention. Derek had been conducting his own investigation. Your grandmother specifically mentioned in conversations with me that she was leaving you her jewelry collection and a substantial cash inheritance. She was worried about your parents' financial management and wanted to ensure you had independent resources. Can you help me prove what they've done? Already started. I've been tracking social media posts, cross-referencing them with financial records I could access through public databases. Marlena's lifestyle doesn't match her declared income. Unless her Instagram sponsorships are worth significantly more than industry standards, suggest she's living beyond her legitimate means. Derek agreed to meet the following day with his findings. Tuesday afternoon, we sat in a quiet coffee shop across town while Derek spread out folders full of documentation. His investigation was thorough and damning. Your sister has been living a lifestyle requiring approximately $200,000 annually, he said, showing me detailed expense calculations. Her legitimate income from sponsorships and affiliate marketing is around $60,000 per year. The difference has to come from somewhere. He had traced the money flow with precision that impressed even me. My inheritance college fund and various loans I had given family members had all been redirected through complex transfers designed to obscure their origin. The most egregious part is this, Derek said, producing bank statements. Your parents have been claiming you as a dependent on their taxes for the past 3 years, despite you living independently and working full-time. They've been receiving substantial tax benefits while you've been paying your own way. My hands trembled as I reviewed the documents. The betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. Derek, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Always. Is this recoverable? Can I actually get justice for what they've done? Derek leaned back, considering carefully. Legally. Some of it. The forged power of attorney is clear fraud. The tax fraud is a federal crime. The theft of your inheritance has a strong case if we can prove the signatures were forged. And practically, that's where it gets interesting. Your family has built their entire financial structure on resources that rightfully belong to you. If those resources are suddenly unavailable, he smiled grimly. Let's just say their house of cards might collapse spectacularly. That evening, I received an unexpected call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, my high school guidance counselor, Mrs. Rodriguez. She had seen Marlena's viral video and recognized me. Seraphina. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I saw that video your sister posted and it brought back some concerning memories. What kind of memories? Do you remember senior year when your scholarship application was withdrawn? I always found that suspicious. You were so excited about that opportunity, and then suddenly you claimed you weren't interested anymore. My heart raced. Mrs. Rodriguez, I never withdrew that application. I thought as much. Someone called our office claiming to be you, but the voice sounded different. When I tried to call you back to confirm the number they gave us was disconnected. She had kept detailed notes from that time, including the phone number used to contact the scholarship committee. When she read it to me, I recognized it immediately. It was Marlena's old number, the one she had used during college. Mrs. Rodriguez, would you be willing to provide a statement about what happened? Absolutely. I've always felt terrible about not investigating further at the time. If someone sabotaged your education, that's unconscionable. After we hung up, I sat in my living room surrounded by evidence of years of systematic abuse and theft. But for the first time since my birthday disaster, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like someone building a case. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Sunday dinner at 6. Marlena has wonderful news about a family reality show opportunity. Don't be late. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, I'll be there. But this time I would be coming with a very different agenda. I spent the rest of the week gathering additional evidence and consulting with Derek about strategy. We discovered that Marlena had been using my social security number for various credit applications, building debt in my name that I knew nothing about. The reality show opportunity Mom mentioned research showed it was likely another scheme to exploit our family drama for Marlena's benefit with contracts that would give her exclusive rights to our family's story, while providing minimal compensation to other family members. By Friday, I had compiled a comprehensive dossier documenting years of fraud, theft, and abuse. Derek had helped me understand which crimes fell under state jurisdiction and which were federal offenses. We had identified multiple felonies with substantial evidence. But more importantly, we had developed a strategy that would give me maximum leverage when I finally confronted my family. Sunday dinner was approaching, and I knew it would be the last time I walked into that house as the family victim. When I left, everything would be different. The question wasn't whether I could prove what they had done. The evidence was overwhelming. The question was whether I was ready to watch their entire world crumble when the truth finally came to light. As I prepared for what I knew would be the most important family dinner of my life, I realized something profound had changed. I was no longer the grateful daughter accepting scraps of attention. I wasn't the accommodating sister making excuses for cruelty. I was someone who had been stolen from, lied to, and betrayed by the people who should have protected me. And I was about to make sure they faced consequences for every single crime they had committed. Sunday arrived with unseasonable warmth, as if the universe itself was preparing for the fire I was about to ignite. I dressed carefully, my best navy suit, the one I wore for important presentations at the hospital. Today felt like the most important presentation of my life. I arrived at 6 sharp, carrying a leather portfolio that contained months of evidence. The familiar scent of Mom's pot roast greeted me, along with the sound of Marlena's animated voice discussing her latest business ventures. Sarah! Marlena jumped up from the couch, her phone still in hand. Perfect timing, I was just telling everyone about this amazing opportunity. She looked radiant in designer jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her makeup was flawless, her highlights fresh from the salon. She looked like someone who had never worried about money a day in her life, because she hadn't. She had been living off mine. "Come sit down, sweetheart," Mom called from the kitchen. "Dinner's almost ready, and Marlena has the most exciting news." I took my usual seat at the dining table, placing my portfolio beside my plate. Dad emerged from his study, already reaching for his customary glass of wine. "So," Marlena began, practically bouncing with excitement. "Remember that video from your birthday? The cake thing?" "I remember," I said calmly. "Well, it's been absolutely incredible. Over 1 million views now, and 3 different production companies have reached out about featuring our family in reality programming." Mom gasped with delight. "A television show? How wonderful." "The best part," Marlena continued, "is that they want to focus on authentic family dynamics. They loved how genuine and spontaneous that moment was. They're offering a substantial contract for exclusive rights to document our family story." She pulled out a thick contract, spreading it across the table like a treasure map. "The advance alone is 6 figures with potential for much more if the show gets picked up for multiple seasons." I scanned the contract quickly, noting exactly what Derek had predicted: Marlena would receive executive producer credit, and the majority of compensation, with other family members getting minimal payments in exchange for signing away their privacy rights permanently. "What does everyone think?" Marlena asked, her eyes shining with anticipation. "It sounds wonderful, dear," Mom said, already reaching for a pen. "Imagine our family on television." Dad nodded approvingly. "The financial benefits alone make it worthwhile. This could set us up very comfortably." All eyes turned to me. The family victim expected to gratefully accept whatever scraps they offered. "Before we sign anything," I said quietly, "I think we need to discuss some family financial matters that have come to light recently." The energy in the room shifted instantly. Marlena's smile faltered slightly, though she tried to maintain her enthusiasm. "What kind of matters?" Dad asked, his attorney instincts clearly activated. I opened my portfolio and withdrew the first document: bank records showing the systematic drainage of my college fund. "I've been reviewing some financial records, and I've discovered some concerning discrepancies." "Sarah, this really isn't the time," Mom said quickly. "We're trying to celebrate Marlena's success." "Success built on stolen money tends to be short-lived," I replied, spreading more documents across the table. "For instance, these records show that my college fund was transferred to accounts in Marlena's name just weeks before she purchased her first luxury car." Marlena laughed nervously. "That's ridiculous. My car was a gift from Dad for graduation." "Actually," I said, producing Dad's tax records that Derek had helped me obtain through legitimate channels. "Dad's declared income that year couldn't have supported a $40,000 gift after taxes and living expenses. But my college fund contained exactly that amount." The silence stretched uncomfortably. Dad set down his wineglass with deliberate precision. "Seraphina, these are private family financial matters. It's inappropriate to—" "What's inappropriate," I interrupted, "is forging my signature on power of attorney documents to steal my inheritance from Grandma Rose." I placed the forged documents on the table next to authentic samples of my signature. The differences were subtle but clear when compared side by side. Marlena had gone pale beneath her perfect makeup. "I don't know what you're talking about." $50,000 plus jewelry worth approximately $20,000 more. Money that was specifically left to me by someone who actually loved me unconditionally. Mom stood abruptly. "I think you've said enough. This is completely inappropriate dinner conversation." "You're right," I agreed, standing as well. "Let's skip straight to the legal conversation." I pulled out copies of the police report I had filed that morning, along with documentation from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit regarding the federal tax fraud charges I had submitted. I spent this week consulting with forensic accountants, fraud investigators, and several attorneys. The evidence of systematic theft, fraud, and elder abuse is overwhelming. Dad's face had turned ashen. As an attorney himself, he clearly understood the severity of what I was describing. The forged power of attorney documents alone constitute multiple felonies. Add in the tax fraud from claiming me as a dependent while I was financially independent, the identity theft involved in using my social security number for credit applications, and the systematic theft of funds designated for my education. I placed a final document on the table, a detailed calculation of damages that Derek had prepared. The total amount stolen exceeds $200,000 over 7 years. In federal court, that carries mandatory minimum sentences. Marlena was shaking now. "Sarah, you're being crazy. This is family. We don't put family in jail over money." "You're right," I said softly. "Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't forge documents. Family doesn't systematically destroy each other's opportunities for their own benefit." I gathered my documents, leaving copies on the table. Which brings us to this reality show opportunity. I pulled out my phone and began recording. I think the producers would be very interested to know that the authentic family dynamics they're hoping to capture include multiple ongoing felony investigations. "Stop recording." Marlena lunged for my phone, but I stepped back calmly. I'm also curious whether they'll still be interested in working with someone who's facing federal fraud charges. Advertisers tend to be skittish about associating with alleged criminals. The room erupted in chaos. Mom demanding I delete the recording, Dad threatening legal action, Marlena crying about her reputation being destroyed. But I felt completely calm for the first time in years. "I've given copies of all evidence to appropriate authorities," I said over the noise. "I've also provided everything to a journalist friend who specializes in white-collar crime stories. The article about influencer fraud and family financial abuse publishes tomorrow." Marlena's sobs turned to wails. "You're destroying my career, my entire life." "No," I corrected. "Your crimes are destroying your career. I'm just making sure the truth comes to light." I walked toward the door, leaving them in chaos behind me. "The police will likely want to speak with all of you within the next few days. I suggest you consult attorneys immediately." As I reached the doorway, I turned back one final time. "Oh, and Marlena, you might want to delete that birthday video. Evidence of assault tends to complicate fraud cases significantly." The door closed behind me on 7 years of systematic abuse and theft. But more importantly, it opened on a future where truth and justice finally had a chance to prevail. The next 48 hours unfolded like dominoes falling in perfect sequence. I had underestimated how quickly justice could move when armed with overwhelming evidence and motivated prosecutors. Monday morning brought the first wave of consequences. My journalist friend Marcus published his exposé titled "The Dark Side of Family Influencer Content: When Social Media Success Masks Financial Crimes." The article detailed Marlena's fraudulent activities without naming my family directly, but anyone who recognized the viral birthday cake video could easily connect the dots. Within hours, Marlena's carefully curated social media empire began crumbling. Comment sections filled with questions about her funding sources. Brands started quietly distancing themselves from partnerships. The reality show producers sent a terse email canceling all negotiations pending resolution of legal complications. By Tuesday afternoon, the FBI Financial Crimes Unit had executed search warrants at my parents' house and Marlena's apartment. Derek called me with updates as they unfolded. "They seized computers, financial records, and several pieces of jewelry that matched descriptions from your grandmother's estate," he reported. The forged power of attorney documents were apparently just the beginning. They found evidence of a broader pattern of identity theft and financial fraud targeting elderly family members. That revelation hit me like a physical blow. Other elderly family members. Your great-aunt Martha, who died 2 years ago. According to preliminary findings, someone accessed her accounts after her death using forged documents. Your family has been running sophisticated financial scams for years. I thought of sweet Aunt Martha, who had always slipped me $20 bills at family gatherings and told me I was her favorite great niece. Even in death, she hadn't been safe from their greed. Wednesday brought criminal charges. Marlena was arrested at a sponsored yoga class, creating a social media spectacle that destroyed what remained of her influencer credibility. The irony was perfect, handcuffed in designer athletic wear, while promoting a wellness brand that immediately terminated her contract. Dad faced charges for tax fraud and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. His law license was suspended pending investigation, effectively ending his career overnight. Mom was charged as an accessory and faced additional counts related to her role in managing the fraudulent financial transfers. Her charity board positions evaporated within hours of the arrest news breaking. But the most devastating consequence was still coming. Thursday evening, Derek called with news that made me sit down hard on my couch. "The house is gone," he said simply. "What do you mean, gone?" "Foreclosure proceedings started this morning. Turns out your parents have been using home equity loans to fund their lifestyle for the past 3 years. Without access to your accounts and inheritance money, they can't make payments. The bank is seizing the property immediately." The family home where 4 generations had gathered for holidays, where Grandma Rose had taught me to bake cookies, where I had taken my first steps, gone because they had gambled everything on continued access to money that was never theirs. "There's more," Derek continued. "Marlena's apartment was raided this morning. She's been living far beyond her means, assuming the reality show money would cover her debts. Without that income, she's facing personal bankruptcy in addition to criminal charges." I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt something more complex, a mixture of justice, sadness, and profound relief that the truth was finally exposed. Friday brought the final piece of immediate consequences: restitution orders. The court had frozen all their assets and begun the process of recovering stolen funds. My inheritance would be returned with interest. My college fund would be restored. Even the money from fraudulent tax returns would be recovered and returned to me. But more than financial restitution, I was getting something far more valuable: validation. Years of gaslighting, of being told I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too ungrateful. All of it exposed as manipulation designed to cover systematic abuse. That evening, I received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Rodriguez, my former guidance counselor, appeared at my door with a bottle of wine and a warm smile. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by," she said. "I wanted to see how you were handling everything." We sat in my living room, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe normally. "I keep waiting to feel guilty," I admitted. "They're my family and I've destroyed their lives." "Sweetheart," Mrs. Rodriguez said gently, "you didn't destroy their lives. They destroyed their own lives through their choices. You simply refused to continue being victimized by those choices." She had followed the case through news reports and was amazed by the scope of the fraud. "In 30 years of education, I've seen family financial abuse before, but never this organized or extensive. What they did to you wasn't just theft, it was systematic psychological and financial warfare." As we talked, I realized something important had shifted in how I viewed myself. For years, I had defined myself in relation to my family's opinion of me: the responsible one, the dramatic one, the ungrateful one. Now I was defining myself by my own actions and values. I was someone who had survived years of abuse and emerged strong enough to seek justice. I was someone who had built a career helping others despite systematic sabotage. I was someone who had chosen truth over false peace. What happens now? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. Now I figure out who I am when I'm not constantly defending myself or trying to earn love that was never going to be freely given. The legal proceedings would continue for months. Sentencing, restitution, civil lawsuits, all the machinery of justice grinding forward slowly but inevitably. But the immediate crisis was over. The truth was public: the criminals were facing consequences, and I was finally free to build a life based on reality instead of manipulation. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked at myself in the mirror and felt proud of what I saw. Not the daughter desperately seeking approval, not the sister accepting cruelty as normal, but a woman who had faced impossible circumstances and chosen courage over comfort. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Marlena. We need to talk. I can explain everything." I looked at the message for a long moment, then blocked the number without responding. There was nothing left to explain. The truth was already clear, justice was being served, and my real life was finally beginning. Outside my apartment window, the city sparkled with possibilities I had never allowed myself to imagine. For the first time in my adult life, the future felt like something I could shape rather than something that would be shaped for me. The girl who had been systematically destroyed was gone. The woman who had risen from those ashes was just getting started. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of my new apartment, a bright, airy space with floor-to-ceiling windows that I had purchased with my recovered inheritance money. The morning sun streamed across hardwood floors that belonged to me in a home that no one could take away. The legal proceedings had concluded with justice served in full measure. Marlena received 2 years in federal prison for fraud and identity theft, with 3 years of supervised probation. Her social media accounts had been permanently suspended, her influencer career destroyed beyond repair. The reality show that was supposed to make her a star, instead, became a cautionary tale about the dark side of social media exploitation. Dad lost his law license permanently and received 18 months in federal prison for tax fraud and elder abuse. His legal practice, built over 30 years, dissolved overnight when clients learned about his criminal activities. The man who had taught me that reputation was everything had destroyed his own through greed and cruelty. Mom received a suspended sentence in exchange for cooperation, but faced financial ruin and social exile. The charity boards that had given her status and purpose wanted nothing to do with someone involved in elder financial abuse. She had tried to contact me several times through intermediaries, but I maintained firm boundaries about communication. The foreclosed family home had been sold at auction. Strangers now lived in the rooms where I had experienced both the best and worst moments of my childhood. It felt symbolic the old life was truly gone, making space for something entirely new. But the most meaningful changes weren't about their punishments. They were about my growth. I had started therapy with Dr. Patricia Coleman, a specialist in family trauma and financial abuse. Our sessions helped me understand that what I had experienced was a recognized pattern called designated scapegoat syndrome, where one family member is systematically targeted for abuse, while resources flow to favored siblings. The birthday cake incident wasn't random cruelty, Dr. Coleman explained during one session. It was a deliberate humiliation designed to maintain the power dynamic where you accepted mistreatment without question. Understanding the psychology behind their behavior helped me release years of self-doubt. I hadn't been too sensitive or ungrateful. I had been responding normally to abnormal treatment. More importantly, I was learning to build healthy relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation or fear. Derek had become not just my forensic accountant, but a genuine friend. We met monthly for coffee, and his friendship taught me what family loyalty actually looked like, supporting each other through difficulties rather than creating them. Mrs. Rodriguez had also remained in my life, becoming something like the mother figure I had always needed. She celebrated my victories without trying to claim credit, offered comfort during setbacks, without judgment, and never once suggested that blood relations were more important than chosen connections. My work relationships had transformed as well. With the confidence that came from finally understanding my worth, I had applied for and received a promotion to charge nurse in the trauma unit. My colleagues, who had always respected my skills, now saw leadership qualities that had been suppressed by years of systematic undermining at home. "You're different," my supervisor noted during my 6-month review. "More confident, more willing to advocate for yourself and your patients." She was right. When you stop accepting abuse in one area of life, you stop accepting it everywhere. The financial recovery had exceeded expectations. Beyond my inheritance and college fund, the court had ordered payment of punitive damages that reflected the emotional and professional harm caused by their sabotage. The scholarship I had lost in high school. The university had created a special fund to provide equivalent education benefits, which I used to pursue a master's degree in healthcare administration. For my 26th birthday, I threw a party unlike any I had ever experienced. Instead of family obligation and underlying tension, my apartment filled with genuine friends, colleagues, and chosen family members who celebrated my existence rather than tolerated it. Derek gave a toast that brought tears to my eyes. To Seraphina, who showed all of us what courage looks like. She didn't just seek justice for herself, she protected future victims by ensuring these crimes couldn't continue. That perspective helped me understand the broader impact of my actions. The FBI investigation had uncovered additional victims, including several elderly community members who had been targeted by similar schemes. My willingness to come forward had prevented further harm to vulnerable people. Mrs. Rodriguez presented me with a framed photo of my high school graduation, along with a letter from the scholarship committee officially acknowledging that my application had been fraudulently withdrawn and apologizing for not investigating more thoroughly at the time. "Your grandmother would be so proud," she said, embracing me warmly. That night, as friends laughed and celebrated in my living room, I realized something profound had changed in how I understood family. Blood relations didn't guarantee love, and love didn't require blood relations. The people surrounding me had chosen to be there just as I had chosen to include them in my life. I thought about Marlena probably lying on a prison cot facing the consequences of treating family like marks to be exploited. I thought about my parents dealing with financial ruin and social isolation. Part of me felt sad for the relationships we might have had if they had been capable of genuine love. But mostly, I felt grateful for the clarity that allowed me to stop wasting energy on people who had never valued me anyway. My phone buzzed with messages from friends who couldn't attend the party, colleagues congratulating me on my promotion, even a message from Marcus, my journalist friend, telling me that his article about influencer fraud had won an investigative reporting award. "Your story helped expose a much larger problem," he had written. "Thank you for having the courage to speak up." As the evening wound down and the last guests departed, I stood alone in my apartment surrounded by genuine expressions of love and friendship. Gift bags from people who actually knew my interests. Flowers chosen because someone remembered. I loved sunflowers. Cards with personal messages that reflected real knowledge of who I was as a person. For so many years, I had believed that family meant accepting whatever treatment was offered, that love required enduring cruelty, that speaking up about abuse was somehow disloyal or ungrateful. Now I understood that real love, whether from family or friends, created safety, not fear. It celebrated achievements instead of undermining them. It offered support during difficulties rather than creating additional problems. The woman who had once stood covered in birthday cake, humiliated and bleeding while her family laughed, was gone. In her place stood someone who had learned that justice wasn't just possible, it was essential. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own well-being? What would you have done if you discovered your family had been systematically stealing from you for years? Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts on family karma and whether blood really is thicker than water. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life family drama stories, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they're worth fighting for. Thank you so much for listening to my journey from victim to victor. Remember, sometimes the family you choose is worth more than the one you're born into, and standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Until next time, keep choosing courage over comfort, and never let anyone convince you that abuse is love in disguise.